Alright, so here we are with section 3.2. We are going to be going over understanding relations and functions today. So we're going to start talking about graphing things and looking at which ones are functions, which ones are just relations, how are they related to one another. So 3 vocab today. We have relation. It's just a set of ordered pairs. So a bunch of x, y pairs that we graph together is a relation. Function is a relation with only one output for every input. So if you put something in, if you put an input in, you only get one thing out. There's no options of what you get out. So for instance, if you go into a store and you put you're going to buy gummy worms, and you put $6 towards those gummy worms, it is a set amount of gummy worms that you get out. It doesn't vary, it's a set amount. So that would be a function, you buying gummy worms. Okay, vertical line test is a test that actually determines whether it's a function or not. And we look at that with using a vertical line across our graph. And we'll look at that more specifically when we get into our example. So jumping right into our example, here's our first relation we're going to deal with. So if you think about the definition, it says a set of ordered pairs. Okay, well here we got a bunch of ordered pairs. We have 1 ordered pair, 2 ordered pair, 3, 4, 5 ordered pairs, and they're all, remember, all ordered pairs are x comma y. And we're going to represent this relation in a bunch of different ways. We're going to represent it as a set, as a table, as a graph, and as a mapping diagram. So for our table diagram, we're going to list all of our x's out and all of our y's out. So for the first ordered pair 1, 6, we're going to list it as 1, 6. For the next ordered pair 2, 5, we're going to list it as 2, 5, and so on. 3, 3, 4, 5, and 5, 2. And that's all we do to represent it in a table. All of our x's are listed on one side and their corresponding y's on the other. For the graph, what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these points, and remember there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Each one of those points are going to become a dot on our graph. So our first point, 1, 6. All right, this is our x, this is our y. We're going to go 1, 6. Okay, the next one, 2, 5. We're going to go 2, 5. Okay, the next one we have 3, 3. So 3, 3. 4, 5. We're going to go 4, 5, 5, 2. And that's it. So notice there's not really a pattern with these dots. They're just kind of some random dots on a graph. They represent a relation. There's not really a pattern, but they're definitely a relation because they're graphed on the same graph. Okay, and then a mapping diagram is going to be something where we show the x's and the y's relating to each other in different circles. So all of the x's are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're not sure where I got those x's from, I looked at all the x values from up here. Okay, for the y's, the y values are going to be 6, 5, 3. Ooh, so this is tricky here. 6, 5, 3. There's another 5. I don't have to list things twice in a mapping diagram. I only need to list it once. It's already there. I don't need to list it again. And then we have a 2. And what we do is to represent the relationship between things, we're going to draw arrows. So the 1 is related to the 6. So we draw an arrow between the 2. The 2 is related to the 5. So we draw an arrow between the 2. The 3 related to the 3. And here the 4 is related to the 5. Remember, the only 5 that we have listed is the one up here. We don't list things twice. So we just draw an arrow to that same 5. And then the 5 is related to the 2. And that is the conclusion of our mapping diagram. So all this is a bunch of ways to represent a relation, a set, a table, a graph, and a mapping. So I want you to do the exact same process we just went through, represent things in 4 different ways, and I'm going to give you a different set to work with. I'm not going to erase this graph because we're going to go back to it in just a second. Alright, remember if you still needed this, you can just go ahead and go back in the video and rewind. So if I give you the set of ordered pairs, negative 3, 2, no, let's stick with positives right now. 2, 4, 1, 3, 3. Let's just stick with those 4. I want you to represent those in the three ways that we just did. Mapping diagram, graphing, and the table. So in those 3 different ways that we just saw. So go ahead and pause the video, complete this on the left-hand side. Left-hand side. Alright, I'm assuming you guys have completed this one on the left-hand side, so I'm going to go ahead and erase it. And we are going to look at using the vertical, before we do that, we'll look at inputs and outputs. So we're going to look at inputs and outputs. Alright, so remember the X's are always the inputs, or what you're putting in. The Y's are always the outputs, what you're pulling out. So if we look at the input of blank has an output of blank. So if we talk about inputs, we're always going to talk about X values. If we talk about outputs, we're always going to talk about Y values. So if we say, all right, let's look at the X value of 1, because 1's on our graph. Let's look at the X value of 1. Well, the output is 6. So that would be how you would conclude that sentence. Okay. If we look at an input of 3, so an X value of 3, our output is also 3. Alright? And we'll do one more. If you look at an input of 5, remember our inputs are our X's, then our output is 2. Perfect. Alright, so that's enough for inputs, outputs. Let's move on to vertical line test. We may have talked about this briefly in class, but I want to make sure that it's in your notes and that it's very, very clear, because it will come up several times. Okay, so first of all, vertical line test, we need a vertical line. So this is going to be my vertical line. Vertical just means straight up and down, so you can use any line you want. It could be your pencil, it's just got to be straight up and down. So this is just my ruler. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vertical line and I'm going to go across my graph. My vertical line doesn't ever get to move or change. It's always got to be vertical. It's always going to be straight up and down. Okay? And it's going to move across mine. So with this vertical line test, we're going to check at every single place that I hit a point. Okay, I hit a point there. I am only crossing through 1 point. Okay? When I continue on, oh, hit a point right there. Only crossing through 1 point. Continue. Only crossing through 1 point. 1 point. 1 point. So there is never a time when my vertical line crosses through more than 1 point. Therefore, remember these 3 dots mean therefore, this passes what we're going to shorten to the VLT, which means that therefore it is a function. So if it passes the vertical line test, it is a function. So let's look at one that maybe isn't this easy, right? Let's look at one that maybe the vertical line test challenges a little bit. So I'm going to draw out this graph. Make sure that all of this right here has been completed on your right-hand side. Alright, so let's do a couple points here. Let's do point 1, 1, point 2, 3, point 3, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 5, 3, and that's it. Alright. So with these points, we are going to use the vertical line test to determine, is it a function or is it not a function? So again, vertical line has got to be straight up and down. Whenever I move it across, it can't move, it can't go left or right, it's always going to be straight up and down. So with my vertical line, I'm going to start on my left, and I'm just going to go and I'm going to say, oh, I hit a point right there. Ooh. Well, it's actually, at that point, I'm crossing through 2 different points. So this vertical line is crossing through 2 points at the exact same time. That's not okay. We don't like that. That means that because of that one vertical line that doesn't work, because of that, therefore, it fails the vertical line test, which means that therefore it is not a function because it failed. We don't want it to have two outputs. Two y's for the same x, we don't like that. So it fails the vertical line test, it's not a function. So just to practice this, I want you guys to do a couple of your own on the left-hand side. So I'm going to erase this. If you still need it, just pause the video. So still under vertical line test, but now you're on the left-hand side. I want you guys to go in your workbook to page 119. And I want you to do number 6 and number 7. And remember that you are completing these on the left-hand side of your journal. All you're going to tell me is, does it pass or fail? Which means, is it a function or not? You're answering those two questions about both number 6 and 7 on your left-hand side.